Have you ever wondered how someone can vanish without a sound, without a trace, in a place filled with hikers, rangers, and search teams? Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Wild Archive, where we explore the strange, the unsolved, and the stories that slip through the cracks. Tonight, we enter the eerie world of missing 411. He was just 6 years old, surrounded by family, broad daylight, and a national park packed with people, and then gone, without a sound, without a trace. Today, we begin our journey into the missing 411 phenomena, starting with the case that shocked the nation. Dennis Martin. On June 14th, 1969, it's Father's Day weekend in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The Martin family from Knoxville, Tennessee, is camping in Spencefield, a grassy area not far from the Appalachian Trail. Dennis, along with his brother and some other kids, decides to play a prank. Hide in the bushes and jump out to scare the adults. The other kids jump out, laughter, surprise, but Dennis doesn't come out. Within minutes, his father is running through the woods, calling his name. Park rangers are alerted. Search teams mobilize. Bloodhounds are brought in. And yet, there's nothing. No footprints. No torn clothing. No signs of struggle. Not even a scent trail. Over the next week, more than 1,400 people join the search. It becomes one of the largest and most intense manhunts in National Park Service history. Helicopters buzz overhead. Special Forces soldiers are even brought in. But the search is complicated by sudden storms, flash flooding, and very rugged terrain. Oddly, searchers report hearing a scream and seeing a man running through the woods with something slung over his shoulder. On the same day, Dennis disappeared. That lead goes nowhere. Interesting. I don't know how many of you have been out in the wild, in the woods, in the forest. It's a very... The woods can be a comforting thing to some people and a scary thing to some others. Because, I don't know about you. I mean, I've been in the woods several times. I used to be, when I was little, I used to be a part of Boy Scouts. And, I went on some hikes and everything, but not even with Boy Scouts. Me and my brother used to go and explore the woods. I grew up in the city, so, we were at our grandparents' house or maybe somebody else's house that had woods, in the backyard. And we would go explore And there was always, at least to me, there was always, I always felt like I was being watched by something or someone. And, but there's always been this blanket, if you will, over the woods or over the forest, and it's not like the mountains or the beach or some other type of, ecosystem. The forest or the woods, it's like that's why I'm sure everybody has seen Harry Potter. If you haven't, go watch it. But for everybody who has, everybody knows about the Forbidden Forest, and it looks scary. It looks dark. When you go in there, there's no sunlight, and so the woods could be, a scary place at sometimes. But this kid, his name was Dennis, and Dennis Martin, and there's they don't know what happened to him. He disappeared, and they had the whole national park. I mean, this is a kid, 6-year-old kid, and they had the whole national park looking for him. They had helicopters, and I haven't been part of search and rescue, although that would be kind of something I'm interested in. But there's people in search and rescue. I mean, they got helicopters, they got dogs, they got horses, they got ATV. I mean, they got the whole 9 yards, and and so but they had helicopters looking for him. I mean, even special forces looking for him. And when you're out in that kind of terrain, in the forest, or even in the mountains, you're gonna have storms, especially up in the mountains. You're gonna have wind and rain and all kinds of things, and it can just come out of the blue, out of nowhere. And then you're gonna have really tough terrain, and you better make sure you have some really, really good boots on for that. But they never found Dennis Martin. Did he get lost in the elements? They searched everywhere, but his body wasn't found. The search team searched everywhere. No body was found. Okay, what's another theory? Did he get abducted? Well, witnesses saw strange figures near the trail. Was he taken? Who knows? Did he get attacked by an animal? If he did, you would think there would be clothing with blood on it, or a blood trail, maybe of some kind that you could see, or maybe that the dogs could have found, but there wasn't. So for those out there, if anybody knows who David Paulides is, David Paulides, let's read a little about him. He is the guy who came up with the theory of the missing 411. If anybody's what is 411? What is that? He's the guy, David Paulides is the guy who came up with the missing 411. So, I'll read a little, it's not going to be too long, but I'll read a little bit about him. David Paulides is a former police officer was now an investigator and writer known primarily for his books dedicated to proving in the reality of Bigfoot and establishing the Missing 411 conspiracy theory. Missing 411 is a series of self-published books and films which document cases of people who have gone missing in national parks and elsewhere, and assert that these cases are unusual and mysterious, contrary to the data analysis which suggests that they are not actually statistically mysterious or even unexpected. Now, I'm sure some people could think of where I got that from. I got it from Wikipedia, and they don't have any type of they just, everything is black and white to them. Anyway, so okay, over 50 years later, there's still no sign of Dennis Martin. He didn't get closure to his family. The people who were trying to find him, the searchers, the rescuers, the police, they couldn't tell his family, like, hey, at least we found your son, even if he died, even if something happened to him, at least they found the body, or maybe found signs. They didn't find anything. If your child went missing and they search and search and they don't find anything, no sign of anything, maybe they have a toy that they like to play with, and there's not even that. They can't even find that. Maybe that the kid dropped or something. But imagine them coming back to you and saying, hey, we couldn't find no trace of your daughter or son at all. Nothing. So I can imagine what Dennis Martin's family was going through. But like, what really happened? And this is just one case. There's hundreds out there with similar cases like this. And but yeah, we're gonna get into I want to talk about people who have gone missing, and I'm just gonna kind of read the incident or read their name and say what year and where it was, and kind of read like a synopsis about it. So these cases are pre-2000. So the Crowden family, 1974, Oregon. A family of 4 vanished from their campsite. Their bodies were never found. Months later, their bodies were found months later in a cave. No suspects. A strange timeline. Number 2, Carl Higdon, 1974, Wyoming. And he survived. So he disappeared while elk hunting and claims he was abducted by aliens. And he said he returned back, he was confused, and he didn't really have no clear explanation. Douglas Legg, 1971, New York. 8-year-old boy disappeared while walking to meet his family at the lodge in the Adirondacks. Massive search. In the Adirondacks. Okay, I'm not sure if that's a mountain range or not. I'm not from New York, so or wherever it's at. Massive search yielded nothing, so they didn't find him at all. Kind of like Dennis Martin. Keith Reinhard, 1988, Colorado. Writer fascinated with a local missing person, Tom Young, goes missing himself in the same area under bizarre circumstances. That's crazy. Imagine you're looking for somebody too, and then you go missing. Oh, that's crazy. And then here's some more recent cases. Brandon Swanson, 2008, Minnesota. 19-year-old vanished while walking after a car accident. Last words to parents: "Oh crap, never seen again." Now, okay, that could have been, there's a lot of theories on that. I mean, that could, after a car accident, come on, like, you're not, what kind of car accident was it? Was it a major one? Was it minor? And, especially, if you're in a car accident, you're not going to be all together, after you try to get out of the car, and then you walk off. I mean, something's probably going to happen. But that's weird. Why would he walk off why would he walk off in the first place? And he wasn't seen again? So he might have been messed up from the car accident. Here's another one. Mara Murray, 2004, New Hampshire. College student crashed her car and seemingly walked off into the woods. No trace has ever been found. What is it with these people getting into a car accident and walking away? I think, I don't know. That's just, my thought, I've never been in a car accident. Like, as far as I know, I don't think I've ever been in one. Knock on wood. But if I had, if I ever do, I don't think I would walk off, just from that's a hit and run, but I don't even think not a hit and run, but I don't even think I would, walk off from the accident. I would, maybe if the car was on fire, I'd walk away from the car or something, but I wouldn't walk away from the scene at all. You want to stay with your car and whoever else, but, that's interesting though. Here's another one. Dior Kuntz Jr., 2015, Idaho. 2-year-old disappeared while on a camping trip. Parents, stories conflicted. No remains. No clues. That is interesting. God forbid. It's sad to think about this kind of stuff, but I hope that it wasn't the parents. We know stuff like that happens, but we just hope that that's not the case. Hope maybe and their stories are conflicted, so I don't know. And there's no remains, there's no clues. Maybe the child walked away. But at 2 years old, I don't know if the child or toddler, would have been able to walk in the first place. Maybe some of your kids can walk, I don't know. And I don't have any kids, so I don't know. But that's interesting. Here's another one. Joe Keller, 2015, Colorado. College athlete vanished during a jog in a remote area. His body was found over a year later. Cause of death uncertain. It doesn't really surprise me when if people out there who live in remote areas and isolated areas, you go for a jog, or maybe you're walking to the store and the store is 5 miles away, and stuff happens. You get, especially if these people are on drugs, or not just on drugs, but like maybe they're dealing with something and maybe they're distracted and they're not thinking clearly, and you get lost. I mean, you'd be surprised. You know, you can get lost half a mile or a mile. I mean, there's people out there. Yeah, they don't have a great sense of direction, and they can get lost, especially if it's nighttime. It's real easy, obviously, to get lost in the dark than in the daytime. So, but that's interesting. They found his body, but a year later. I mean, and it doesn't really give description like where his body was, how his body was, you know. So, okay, Alfred Bill Hertz, 1938, Colorado. He disappeared in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I've been there actually. A climber saw a boy on a cliff ledge days later, but he vanished again, never found. You know, so somebody saw him on a cliff ledge, and then he vanished, and they never found him. So, you know, what happened? Did he get attacked by something, a bear? Or mountain lion? Did he fall off the cliff? You know, who knows? And we're going to talk about different theories on missing 411 people. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, here's another one. Daniel Robinson, 2021. Arizona. 24-year-old geologist disappeared in the desert. His car was found wrecked, but he was never located. Theories range from foul play to mental health crisis. Yeah, you know, that's a big one. People who have health issues, mental health issues, I mean, there's no telling what people could do, especially after going through an accident, or I mean, because depending on how major the accident was, it can be crucial, and it can make somebody like act crazy. Or the switch inside of them, maybe it just triggers something, and they just go crazy, or they don't know what to do, and they just walk off. It sounds weird to us because you would think after an accident you'd stay with your car, but some people just walk off. But it also could have been foul play. Somebody could have murdered him. Dropped the car there, made it look like a wreck, to say that he was in a wreck and he died in the wreck. But interesting. Here's another one. Tyler Davis, 2019, Ohio. Disappeared from a hotel area after a night out with his wife. Phone last pinged nearby, but no footage or trace. I know everybody's asking it. The wife killed him. Or did she kill him? It's hard to know, man. And like, I wonder with these people and these reports and these cases, was there any police investigation at all? Because some of them seemed like they could have been solved. To me, anyway. But, his wife, he was in the hotel with his wife. He was with his wife, and I mean, the last time he was seen, too. So, I mean, I'm sure if there was an investigation, they would have talked to her and everything. These little synopsis of the cases, of each case, it doesn't give every detail, so I can't see if the police contacted her and stuff like that. It just gives a little brief little summary of what happened and stuff. So, okay, here's another one. Asha Degree. That's a unique name. 2000, North Carolina. 9-year-old walked out of her house in the early morning during a storm, spotted by drivers, and vanished. Yeah, I mean, okay, this is a reminder that parents need to keep an eye on their children, because this is the kind of stuff that happens. Your child walks out of the house in a storm. You know, everybody sees the child. You know, and this is why I don't care. I don't know why. I know some. Well, I kind of do know why. I know some people don't want to get involved in other people's business, but I'm sorry. If I see a kid walking down the sidewalk, and kid, I mean like a kid who's like a toddler, I guess a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, 7. I don't know. Yeah, I guess. You know, if I see them, I don't know, 9-year-old, that's kind of. I know definitely if I see like a 3 or 4 or even a 5-year-old walking down the sidewalk in a storm. Well, maybe not. I don't know in a storm. Maybe by themselves. Like, I'd ask, where's your parents at? You know, why did your parents let you out of the house? And you know, and I know it's it was different years ago. You know, people, especially if you live in a small town, you can kind of get away with stuff like that because everybody knows everybody. But in a big city, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. If I had kids, I would drive my kid or walk my kid anywhere they wanted to go. I would not allow them, especially in a world like this, I would not allow them to go just walk off to the store or even to school. You know, so, and because this is what happens, stuff like this. Okay. Kenny Veach. So Kenny Veach. Okay. 2014, Nevada. YouTuber searching for a mysterious M as in men shaped cave near Area 51. He disappeared and only his phone was found. And that's the last one we're going to talk about, but that is interesting. And he was a YouTuber. I don't know how big he was. I don't know how many followers he had. I never heard of him, but he was searching for an M-shaped cave near Area 51, people. I mean, we all know what goes down in Area 51, do we not? You know, so did he cross the line? Or the you know, the fence line, if you will? We don't know. But, because it doesn't say he was in Area 51, it says he was near it. And, you know, interesting stuff happens at Area 51. We all know that. But, see, only his phone was found. And there was no... If he's a YouTuber, you think he would have pictures or videos on his phone of... and maybe he was documenting his search for the cave. You know, you'd think he would be. But, okay, this is the last one. Sorry, guys. Drake Kramer 2015, Texas to Grand Canyon. So, 21-year-old drove to the Grand Canyon alone, sent spiritual messages to family, then disappeared. You know, that's why I'm saying, like, some people, I think some people just don't want to be found, especially if maybe they're going through stuff, maybe with their family or just mentally. I honestly think people just don't want to be found, and you can do that. All you gotta do is let your phone die, let everything die. Don't have anything technological wise that can tie you to location or anything, and then you can disappear. Nobody will ever find you. In the middle of the woods, no one's gonna ever find you. So maybe that's what he was doing. It was, he sent spiritual messages to his family. I don't know what that means, and then he disappeared. So maybe he just didn't want to be found anymore. He wanted to be by himself. So let's kind of talk about some theories and some causes that happens to these people who go missing. Now, there's a couple things we're going to talk about. The most plausible thing, it's not always the most satisfying thing. So, but they're natural causes. Environmental hazards. People fall into holes, in caves, rivers, little tiny crevices, especially. I don't know if if any of you guys have ever seen 72 Hours. It's about a movie about, I forgot the actual guy's name, but it's about him and the guy who plays Harry in Spider-Man. I forgot his name too. But he plays the guy in the movie. He plays the real guy. And what happened was he was hiking, I think in Arizona, and he got trapped. I don't know if he was like rock climbing or if he was just hiking and he fell in. I can't remember. But he got his arm trapped into, between a rock and the wall. The rock came down and wedged his right hand into the wall and the rock, and it was trapped. He couldn't get out. And he was there for a couple days, and he had to drink all the water he had and his own urine. And he got free, but he had to cut his arm off, and then he got out. And, that's amazing. He got out, and then they found him, and he tells his story too and stuff. But for those who have not seen the movie, it's called 72 Hours. It's a really good movie. I think you guys should check it out. But yeah, guys. There's just a whole bunch of different ways how people could go missing. Stuff happens, and if it's cold outside, it doesn't even have to be like 30 degrees. It can be 60 degrees. Definitely 50, but it can be 60 degrees, and you can still get hypothermia in that. And, the biggest sign of hypothermia, when you have hypothermia, you're going to start taking your clothes off because you're starting to feel hot. The cold is tricking you, and you're starting to feel hot. And you start taking your clothes off, and, you can get hypothermia. And these people, I don't understand. I've never, mind you, I've never been hiking a lot. I would like to go hiking a lot But just where I am, there's not really a lot of hiking, especially mountain wise. I've been camping, but I haven't been, not a lot, but I've been camping before. And, some of these people, they're going out for a day hike, for a couple hours, and maybe they don't have a tent with them. So, they don't have a tent with them, and then you go missing, and something happens. You get trapped somewhere, maybe you fall in, or you just lost your way, you lost the trail, and then you don't have a tent to stay in. And, some of these people, they don't know how to build a shelter, and you get trapped in the elements, and you're stuck outside, and it's 50 degrees or 55 degrees or whatever, and you get hypothermia. Especially in the winter, you'll get it, but you can get it when it's, 55, even 62. Now, where I'm at, I'm lucky that there's not any bears or mountain lions or Bigfoot, there might be, but, that's another theory, that they get attacked. That's some more, not a theory, but it's a more plausible cause, animal attack. Mountain lions, bears, moose, elk, they can attack you. Not like a bear, but they can maul you, a boar, and, but that stuff leaves evidence. If you get attacked by a bear, you're gonna know, or a mountain lion, you're gonna know. Obviously, your whole face is gonna be torn apart. But in these cases, in the instance of these 411 cases, they can't even find the body, or two, there's no marks on them, whatsoever. So, what is it? It could be hypothermia. And then, maybe you're hiking through the woods or the forest, or, in the desert, up a rock cliff, and you get trapped. Or you trip over a log or something, or a rock, and you trip, and you got a backpack full of gear, on, and you fall and you twist your ankle, or worse, you break it. And then you can, and then you're trapped there, and then it's nighttime, and then you can get hypothermia, especially, like I said, if it gets below a certain temperature, you can get hypothermia, So that's all the plausible stuff. And, but there's a problem with all this stuff. Many searchers, they're extensive with dogs, and the helicopters and the ATVs and everything. And they do all that searching, and they still turn up nothing. They still don't find anything. There's no body. There's nothing. So let's talk about another theory. Serial killers. Or, abductors. It could be, a serial killer out there. It could be somebody who abducts you. Now, there could be also people who are in jail and then come out of jail. Our prison, they come out of prison and maybe they want to be left alone. And they go live in some remote area or something. And, human traffickers. um, a cult. Maybe they need to sacrifice you to the goat god or something. But these are all like kind of hard. They're hard to prove and stuff. But what about a rogue park employee and national park employee, or people on the inside? It's rare, but people have speculated about those with knowledge of the terrain. But there's little to no evidence at all, and victims often vanish in seconds with no struggle at all. Interesting. So, now let's talk about, let's talk about the theories, because this is what we do on this podcast. We talk about these theories, government cover-ups, military involvement, because I think that's probably what's really going on. Alien abductions, and I'm sure a lot of them are people falling into caves and getting sick or hypothermic, and they just die, and they fall, animals eat them. But that's not fun. So, could it be black ops or secret facilities? Some people believe that the disappearances happen near areas with underground bases or secret testing grounds. And, I've heard this theory, and it's actually interesting. If you go online and you look at a map of all the underground caves in the U.S., and then you compare that map with with a map of all the missing 411 people, or case files, and where they're at, in the United States, it's almost a perfect copy. What could that mean? Were they abducted by so-called military people? And maybe, like the last podcast we were talking about mind control, I wouldn't put it off the table. I wouldn't be surprised. And they take him to their underground base, their secret testing grounds, if you will, and they experiment on them. And then you're asking, well, for what reason? Why would they need to do that? Who knows? Do these organizations, these three-letter organizations, do they need to give a reason why they do stuff? No. We think they should, but do they? No. They don't care. They do not care. So, when agencies shut down searches or restrict information, it just adds to the mystery of it all, because it kind of makes them look more suspicious. But yeah, I wouldn't put it off the table if Area 51 does stuff like this. It gets hikers or people who are camping or fishing, whatever, and then they just go missing, because then how could you can't, there's too much anecdotal evidence and for me to say that it was just an animal attack, or it was just they got hypothermia and they died or something. It's just, I just can't. I don't. I'm sure a lot of it is that, because obviously there's bears out there. There's things that want to attack us. When I mean things, I mean animals and other people too. Let's not forget that. But but what if these victims? What if they walk into a thin place, a rip in reality, and they're trapped, or they vanish? That's an interesting theory, and I've heard this kind of theory before. It kind of goes alongside with, it can go alongside with, because there's a lot of time slips, portals, if you will, and and a lot of these theories, but it goes alongside Bigfoot. So there's people who believe Bigfoot, comes out of a portal, that Bigfoot doesn't live in the same reality that we live, that they come from a different reality. But there's been reports of strange sounds and disorientation, or even losing time, which we all know that people who have been part of UFO, abductions, have it talked about losing time, or not just abduction, but also seeing UFOs, or any type of alien experience. They talk about losing time. And now, that's interesting. So, now, guys, we gotta talk about this, guys. We gotta talk about this. What if they were abducted by Bigfoot? Now, we all know that where these people are, they're national parks. There's Bigfoot sightings in national parks. Yellowstone, there's a lot. Most Bigfoot sightings are in Washington, I think. Washington, Oregon, Alaska, and stuff. But, and there's a lot of missing 411 people up there, too. And obviously, we know, if you're a Bigfoot believer, I don't know if I'm a believer, but I am skeptical. I do like the theory of it. And I'd say this: I'm more of a believer in skinwalkers and aliens than Bigfoot. But this is why we're here. We talk about all this stuff and all the crazy, fantastical, theories that nobody else talks about. So, but were they abducted by the great Sasquatch? I don't put it off the table. And that's a whole nother podcast. But Bigfoot, there's signs that Bigfoot will give you, to warn you, maybe shaking trees or throwing rocks, building structures and, whooping sounds. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that they warn you. And I even think that their presence too can be a warning to people to stay away. So, and if people don't listen, what's going to happen? Are they going to take you away? Are they going to abduct you? And, you know, who knows? But, you know, this next theory is interesting because I could believe this. Skinwalkers. You know, maybe because we all know, if you know what a skinwalker is, we all know that skinwalkers, they shapeshift. And they can shapeshift into one of your loved ones or into somebody else. So maybe they're somebody's hiking through the woods or in the desert on a mountain or whatever, and they're hiking and they come across somebody else who you know, the person thinks they're another person, and maybe they're all friendly and everything, but in reality, they're a skinwalker, and they get tricked. And, you know, we all know that aliens abduct. All right, we all know that. So, it wouldn't be a surprise if they got abducted. You know. And, you know, sudden disappearances. You know, some of these people, there's no tracks. There's no, you know, electronic malfunctions, you know, in their phones or whatever, and they don't send texts or they call anybody like, hey, you know, I'm trapped, or, you know, if, now, granted, I know a lot of these places don't have service, but I think some of them do. And in some of these cases, you would think that they would send, you know, a distress text to, you know, to their loved ones or to whoever, law enforcement, whoever, and say, hey, I'm up here and I'm trapped, or, you know, I guess it's hard to do that if you got abducted by aliens, you know, but I think that's probably one of the most popular ones, alien, they got abducted by aliens, and, but then, you gotta ask why. You know, why would aliens abduct us? Or them, the missing 411 people. And, you know, it's, these people are in a secluded place, you know. You know, it's not like they're in a big city. So, these people are in secluded places, and I think aliens, if you will, you know, extraterrestrial, can get to them more easily because they're all by themselves. And then here's a good theory, and I like this theory too. Could be something spiritual, you know, or supernatural. A lot of places where these people hike, you know, national parks. I don't want to say all of the land of national parks, but a lot of them, they were on Native American grounds. Maybe burial grounds or just grounds in general. And maybe they're cursed. You know, the Native Americans before were, you know, they cursed the land. You know, some ancient spirit, if you will. But you know, it's really interesting. And for those of you who like to hike and who like to travel, I mean, not travel, but to hike and to camp. You know, just, you know, be careful. because make sure you have the proper guidance for when you go out. Make sure. I know there's a lot of solo people who go solo hiking and solo camping and just do everything when it comes to that kind of stuff outdoors, by themselves. But you have to be safe. That's the number one thing. You have to be safe. Make sure you have you take the proper precautions, to stay safe and to have fun, but be safe. But yeah, thanks for joining me on this journey into the unknown. Let me know if anybody's got a theory, or a story, or any questions. I would like to hear them. But the wild still holds secrets, and together we're building the archive. So, until next time, guys, stay curious and stay aware. And I'll see you guys on another episode.